Hello everyone and welcome to my Beyond the Gates CBS Update 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Beyond the Gates spoilers: Smitty does the unthinkable and disappoints Martin. The storylines are becoming more intricate, the relationships are being challenged from all angles, and some unexpected decisions are set to have long-term implications. Let's dive in. The most recent round of spoilers promises dramatic confrontations, surprising disappointments, and risky decisions that could affect several lives. While multiple narratives are unfolding simultaneously, one thing unites them all: people at a crossroads. Some characters are attempting to hang on to connections that are slipping away. Others are bearing the consequences of decisions they can no longer avoid. And a few are soon to realize that the individuals they trust the most are capable of disappointing them. Martin and Smitty are at the center of the most intense emotional storm. These two have been fighting for months to mend the wounds that almost wrecked their marriage. They overcame betrayal, secrecy, political pressure, and bitter miscommunication. They eventually found their way back to each other. In recent weeks, they have proved that they can work together again, particularly when it comes to assisting Tyrell in navigating his sadness. They have been reunited, supportive, focused. For the first time in a long time, nothing appeared to disrupt their newfound stability. That is precisely why the impending letdown carries so much weight. Martin has been preparing for a major charity basketball tournament, a public appearance that is significant for more than simply the cause. As a politician, every appearance influences public impression. Every occurrence becomes part of the image that voters view. Having his family by his side is critical. Having Smitty present is even more crucial. Smitty understood this. He understood how much this occasion meant to Martin. Even if he wasn't playing in the game, he made it apparent that he was there to support his husband. That pledge appeared simple enough. However, spoilers imply that something happens that will disappoint Martin. The question isn't only whether Smitty misses the event. The true question is, why? And the answer may indicate a far larger problem hiding beneath the surface. Because there's another issue looming over their marriage. A true crime podcast. What appeared to be an amazing professional opportunity has slowly turned into a political problem. Martin's campaign manager Shonda has already expressed her concerns. She doesn't believe the circumstances. From her perspective, the risks are considerable. Political campaigns are unstable. One incorrect headline, one mistaken statement, a contentious revelation, that's all it takes to craft a destructive narrative. Shonda sees danger every place with Smitty's involvement. She's afraid of unexpected surprises. She's afraid of public backlash. Most crucially, she worries about losing control of the campaign's messaging. Martin has spent months trying to strike a balance between his professional and personal lives. The last thing he wants is another issue diverting attention away from his objectives. Unfortunately, Smitty may be putting himself right in the thick of one. If Smitty chooses the podcast before helping Martin, the disappointment might be far greater than a missed appearance. It would reflect clashing agendas. Martin may begin to worry if his husband actually realizes the pressure he is experiencing. Meanwhile, Smitty may feel as if he has spent too much time compromising his own goals for the sake of others. This creates a risky situation. Neither individual would necessarily be incorrect. However, both could be damaged, and sometimes those are the most difficult problems to resolve. While Martin and Smitty are experiencing growing stress, another relationship is quietly approaching a watershed moment. Carlton and Nicole. Their relationship blossomed under strange circumstances from the start. Ted's involvement complicated matters. Nicole's past complicates matters. The expectations surrounding the relationship made everything more challenging. Despite this, Carlton made a sincere effort. He gave his relationship a chance. He put himself out there emotionally. And for a while it appeared that something substantial may emerge. However, feelings do not always follow plans, especially when another individual enters the picture. Kiel modified the equation. What may have begun as a new possibility gradually became something Nicole could not ignore. There was enthusiasm. There was chemistry. Most importantly, there was an air of possibilities. She had the impression that she was embarking on a fresh chapter rather than returning to old patterns. According to teasers, Carlton is about to give Ted a huge update. Given what has happened recently, the most plausible interpretation is that Carlton has accepted reality. He understands where Nicole's heart is leading her. And he might have opted to step away. If that's the case, this chat may be quite emotional. Not because Carlton is angry, not because Ted disagrees, but endings are still difficult, even when everyone acts maturely. Ted spent time encouraging this bond. In many respects, he hoped it would succeed. Learning that it has ended may push him to face the fact that some relationships are simply not meant to be. Meanwhile, Nicole appears to be preparing to have a similar chat with Vanessa. Unlike Carlton's conversation with Ted, this one may bring a sense of relief. Nicole has spent months juggling complex emotions. She finally seems to know what she wants. That clarity might be liberating. However, it can also be frightening. Choosing one road requires permanently closing another. And once Nicole has fully committed to Keel, there may be no coming back. Vanessa will probably have a lot to say. She typically does. It's unclear if she's encouraging, cautioning, or offering a combination of the two. Only one thing is certain. Nicole's life is taking a new route. Every fresh beginning brings with it some level of uncertainty. Elsewhere, Bill Hamilton remains surrounded by mayhem. If there is one person who never seems to be able to avoid problems, it is Bill. Even in the hospital, drama finds him. Or perhaps Bill seeks drama. At this point, it's hard to discern the difference. Spoilers suggest that Bill will flirt with Calamity. That phrase alone raises numerous questions. What type of disaster? A medical setback? Was this a dangerous decision? An emotional confrontation? Is a hazardous secret being exposed? Any of these options could work. Bill has spent much of the last few months hovering on the brink of disaster. His relationships are strained. His health is still a concern. His judgment has frequently been questioned. Instead of focusing completely on rehabilitation, Bill continuously puts himself in circumstances that cause more issues. That pattern may eventually catch up with him. What makes matters worse is that the turbulence around Bill goes far beyond him. Haley finds herself involved in dispute after confrontation. Wherever she goes, anxiety seems to follow. And now another battle is on the way. This time with Ashley. The specifics are unknown, but the fact that Haley is involved nearly guarantees sparks will fly. Neither woman is known to back down readily. Both are unlikely to remain silent if provoked. That offers the ideal conditions for an explosive meeting. The hospital has already become a battleground for emotions, allegations, and personal ambitions. Adding another confrontation to the mix might escalate tensions even further. As these confrontations unfold, another mystery emerges. Shanice gets an unexpected request. At first sight, that may not sound particularly dramatic. However, surprising requests on soap operas rarely remain simple for long. The identity of the person submitting the request could affect everything. Is this Bill? Anyone from her past? A family member? A buddy experiencing a crisis? Even the uncertainty adds fascination, because sometimes the slightest spoiler leads to the greatest surprise. And then there's Leslie. Perhaps no character is at a greater emotional crossroads than she is right now. For a long period, Leslie was confined by a single preoccupation. Ted, the relationship, the recollections, the prospect of getting him back. While everyone else has tried to move on, Leslie has remained emotionally attached to a version of the past that no longer exists. The refusal to let go has caused numerous confrontations. It has ruined relationships. It has hampered judgment. And it has hampered healing. Eva is now poised to fight that thinking directly. Unlike others who may have skirted the topic, Eva looks to be willing to face the facts full on. She notices what Leslie is doing. She realizes how destructive the obsession has become, and she is no longer willing to be silent. What makes this conversation so significant is the likelihood that Eva will get through to her. Not necessarily by soothing her, not necessarily by expressing agreement with her, but by forcing her to confront the issues she's been avoiding. The spoiler suggests that Eva's statements elicit a powerful response. That reaction could take various kinds: anger, denial, heartbreak, acceptance, or something much more harmful. Because when confronted with hard truths, individuals do not always react sensibly. Sometimes they lash out. They may make rash decisions. Sometimes they do something unexpected. And, based on the spoiler's wording, Leslie may be about to take action. The question is whether this action will ultimately allow her to go forward, or whether it will drive her farther into the fixation that has already taken over her life. As Fairmont Crest prepares for disappointment, breakups, confrontations, risky decisions, and emotional reckonings, one huge question dominates everything. What will Leslie do when Eva's challenge strikes a nerve? Because by the end of their chat, Leslie appears to be ready to take action. And if her next decision is motivated by passion rather than logic, the ramification could extend well beyond her own life. Just when Leslie approaches that key moment and prepares to act, numerous relationships' futures may be irreparably altered. Something changes when Eva's words no longer resonate in Leslie's memory. Not because Leslie unexpectedly agrees, not because years of emotional attachment vanishes in an instant, but she eventually reaches the point when standing motionless is impossible. For months, Leslie has been fighting the same battle. She's been seeking the same dream. She's been attempting to reconstruct a version of her life that no longer exists. Every debate, conflict, and confrontation finally leads back to Ted. She now faces a terrible reality, even if she won't admit it out loud. The road she's been taking isn't bringing her closer to Ted. It is pulling everyone further away. That knowledge does not instantly provide her serenity. In fact, it might make her more dangerous. People frequently presume that emotional breakthroughs result in calm decisions. In actuality, they might lead to desperate situations. When someone believes they're out of options, they are more willing to accept risks they would have avoided previously. That is what makes Leslie's next action uncertain. She could select self-reflection. She may choose acceptance, or she may decide that one last great gesture is required before she lets go. The uncertainty surrounding her motives quickly raises concerns among those around her. Leslie has never been a character who gracefully accepts loss. Meanwhile, the impact from Carlton's relationship update is spreading throughout other groups. Although Carlton looks to be resolved to handle the matter maturely, the eventual result is not without pain. Accepting reality and remaining unaffected by it are not the same thing. Carlton recognizes Nicole's heart's desire to go somewhere else. He understands that forcing anything to continue will only result in animosity. However, intellectual comprehension differs greatly from emotional experience. The hardest aspect of moving on is often accepting that time is important. Sometimes two persons are compatible. Sometimes they actually care for each other. However, circumstances simply refuse to comply. Carlton may be dealing with exactly that reality. His talk with Ted sparks an intriguing dynamic. Ted is unable to resolve this dilemma. He is unable to negotiate a better conclusion. He cannot persuade Nicole to feel something she does not feel. All he can do is listen, and maybe that's exactly what Carlton needs. This is not advice, not a solution, just an acknowledgement. An understanding that disappointment persists even when no one is to blame. At the same time, Nicole's interaction with Vanessa provides an entirely different emotional perspective. Nicole is focused on what could happen next rather than what has already happened. That is not to say she is without compassion for Carlton. Far from it. In fact, her fear of harming him could be one of the reasons she took so long to accept her feelings. But every person eventually reaches a point when avoiding suffering is impossible. The longer uncertainty lasts, the more damage it creates. Nicole seemed to be ready to move on from her state of uncertainty. That move could provide viewers with a level of confidence they haven't seen from her in a while. Rather than analyzing every emotional instinct, she may now be able to seek happiness without feeling guilty. Of course, this does not guarantee a smooth road ahead. Relationships that begin with excitement encounter real-world challenges. The difference is that Nicole appears to be willing to face these obstacles right now. Elsewhere, the tension between Martin and Smitty becomes far more complex than a mere disappointment. The immediate issue could be whatever commitment Smitty fails to keep. But the real issue is what that dissatisfaction symbolizes. Martin has spent most of his life carrying duties, responsibilities in the public sector, family duties, political obligations. He understands sacrifice since he experiences it every day. What he may find difficult to grasp is why someone he cares about would purposefully create a setting that adds to rather than relieves stress. That is where the emotional consequences become crucial. A missing occasion can be forgiven. A schedule conflict can be explained. However, if Martin begins to believe that Smitty no longer sees their common priorities in the same way, the debate becomes much more serious. Smitty may also be becoming increasingly frustrated. For many years, Martin's profession has dominated their marriage. Martin's campaign, Martin's public image, Martin's responsibilities. At some point, Smitty may raise a challenging question. How does his own identity fit into all of this? That question could become the hidden issue that fuels future strife. Because sometimes disputes aren't about the event that started them. They're about long unspoken needs. If that is what is going on here, Martin and Smitty may be on the verge of having a talk they can no longer ignore. A conversation about balancing, about priorities, about what they each require from the marriage going forward. The good news is that solid partnerships can withstand uncomfortable conversations. The bad news is that such chats are rarely pleasant. Across town, the situation concerning Bill is becoming increasingly perilous. The warning that Bill is on the verge of calamity becomes increasingly worrisome as viewers think about it, because Bill has created a pattern. Every time circumstances allow him to slow down and reassess, he finds a way to add new complications. This habit may finally be catching up with him. What's more disturbing is that Bill frequently acts as if penalties are something for another day. But gradually tomorrow arrives, and when it does, unaddressed difficulties remain. They multiplied. His hospital stay should have compelled him to concentrate on healing. Instead, fresh tensions continue to rise around him. New conflicts keep finding him. New opportunities for blunders continue to emerge. That is not sustainable indefinitely. Bill will eventually have to decide whether he prefers stability or turmoil, because attempting to manage both rarely succeeds. Simultaneously, Haley's current interaction threatens to add another layer of turmoil. Her altercation with Ashley is more than just another quarrel in an already hectic week. It demonstrates a developing pattern. Haley is becoming increasingly isolated due to turmoil. Every disagreement causes another fracture. Every conflict breeds new enemies. Even the strongest personalities eventually realize that perpetual fighting has a cost. The question is whether Haley will recognize the cost before it is too late, or whether she keeps pushing till the damage is irrevocable. Then there's Shanice. The unexpected request placed in front of her may appear to be a minor plot point in comparison to everything else going on. But those events frequently serve as watershed moments when least expected. A simple request can force someone to show where their true loyalties are. A simple favor might reveal buried emotions. A single decision can result in unexpected effects. Whatever Shanice is asked to do, her response could indicate more about her future than spectators understand. As all of these narratives progress, a greater theme emerges throughout Fairmont Crest. Choices. These are not accidents. No misconceptions. Choices. Carlton selects acceptance over denial. Nicole chooses a fresh start over uncertainty. Martin and Smitty are forced to decide whether to address their developing frustrations openly. Bill continues to choose danger over caution. Haley consistently chooses confrontation over peace. And Leslie is at the most vital crossroads of all. Because given what Ava has spoken, Leslie must determine what type of future she wants. One based on obsession, or one based on potential. The problem is that emotional shifts rarely occur overnight. Even if Leslie realizes the reality, she may struggle to accept it. Part of her could still want to fight. Part of her may still believe there is something to reclaim. Part of her may still be unable to envision life without Ted. That mental fight could shape everything that follows. That is exactly why spectators should keep a close eye on her next move. Not because it will give immediate results, but it will tell the direction her story is taking. Toward healing, toward vengeance, toward acceptance, or toward an even worse calamity. One thing is becoming more evident. This week's events are not coming to a conclusion. They are turning points. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, so please don't forget to subscribe my channel and don't miss any update.